Accompanied by dynamic music, girls with stunning figures swayed their bodies gracefully and charmingly. This attractive performance immediately caught the attention of the U.S. ambassador to Russia. A beautiful girl took the initiative to walk over, then, she unexpectedly straddled onto him.
Я была плохой девочкой. Накажи меня.
This way, the two went inside the house, and had a passionate interaction for quite some time.
You're amazing.
Before the ambassador could react, the girl, with blood all over her face, ran out of the house. While running, she shouted loudly, "Help, I was raped." Soon, the unlucky ambassador was taken away by the Russian police. Only now did the ambassador realize that it turned out this was a honey trap, set up just for him, and the mastermind behind this incident was the male lead, Mike. In a certain city in Russia, there's a huge red light district network, which is filled with passion, desire, and debauchery. As long as you have money, you can buy services that allow you to do whatever you want, and choose any type of girl freely. The king who rules this kingdom of desire is a burly man named Mike. Although he has always hidden his identity from the public, many people still know his true background. One night, Mike received an invitation from his friend David to attend a private dinner party where high-ranking officials and celebrities gathered. As soon as the two met, David couldn't wait to introduce another person to Mike. According to David, this person is named Charlie and is a financial manager in charge of investment and finance who is very young and promising.
Чем занимаешься? Консалтинг, инвестиции.
Кстати, об инвестициях. Обрати внимание, вот этому парню в прошлом квартале дал 40 миллионов. Получил 400.
Upon hearing this, Charlie immediately broke into a confident smile. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with Mike, he stood up and left to leave room for the two to talk.
Приведи клиента и получишь скидку, значит, да?
Я получу хороший процент, ты получишь хороший доход, и все довольны.
When Mike saw how much David trusted and praised Charlie, he immediately had an idea. After all, one can never have too much money. Just as they were talking, David turned around and unexpectedly saw John, the owner of a certain bank, bringing a beautiful woman into the high-end venue. John's wife was still alive. David was shocked by how bold that was, but Mike said nothing, because that beautiful woman was under his management. Later, David called John over and introduced him to Mike. This also gave Charlie the chance to talk to the beautiful woman alone. After Charlie took out a large amount of cash, he immediately won the beautiful woman's favor. The girl ate the piece of gum Charlie gave her. The two immediately went to the bathroom and fooled around. By the time Mike, who had sensed something was wrong, came looking for them, they had already finished. But soon Mike noticed that the girl's condition was off. She seemed to have taken some illegal drugs. To avoid causing trouble, Mike wanted to take the girl away from the party quickly, but he was stopped by the venue's security guards. Just as Mike was trying to explain, the girl went so crazy that she pulled out a gun and played with it. If the bodyguard hadn't stopped her in time, Mike would have likely been shot by the woman under his management. His lips twitched with anger. Now the bodyguard realized Mike was telling the truth, so he hurried to help the girl to an empty room to rest. But then Mike took out money and stopped the bodyguard Tom. He asked if Tom could help get the surveillance footage from just now, only to be told that Tom had already deleted the footage first. The reason was that Tom didn't want to cause trouble on his last shift. It turned out that Tom had complained that the club paid him too little. He had handed in his resignation a few days earlier. Tonight was his last shift. Tom just wanted to finish it safely and smoothly. Mike immediately had the idea of recruiting Tom. Before long, Mike called Anna, who was in charge of managing the women. He asked Anna what exactly she had given the girl to eat, but Anna was also confused, because Mike's rule had always been that no one under his management was allowed to touch illegal drugs, so she never dared to cross this line. Unluckily, the girl, who had sobered up, couldn't remember anything. Anna told the girl to wait in the car first. She knew Mike had something to say. Sure enough, after the girl left, Mike immediately flew into a rage. He questioned Anna about why there was such a serious mistake in her management. In fact, Mike didn't care which woman died of a drug overdose. What he cared about was that if the police were alerted, the whole business chain would be in danger. Anna had to promise that she would recheck each woman one by one. Only then did Mike nod with a cold expression. As soon as Anna left, Mike immediately received Tom's detailed information. It turned out that Tom was a retired Special Forces soldier. He had also won many medals during his military service. A look of admiration flashed in Mike's eyes, so when Tom finished his shift and walked out of the club, he was surprised to find Mike still waiting for him at the door.
Поручение выполнять, водительского скажу. Выходные не предусмотрены. Но по оплате не обижу.
Seeing the stack of banknotes handed to him, Tom was stunned for a moment first, before taking the money and tucking it into his pocket. Then Tom immediately started working, driving Mike's luxury car for him. After parking it safely in the garage, Mike generously gave the car to Tom, and told him to pick himself up promptly. At 10 o'clock the next morning, on the other side, Anna drove the girl home. During the trip, she personally called the client to apologize. Luckily, John didn't pursue the matter. After hanging up the phone, Anna asked the girl what exactly had happened that day, if she had eaten something wrong at the party.
Это было как под гипнозом. Он позвал трахаться, я и пошла. Он же мне конфету дал. Сейчас. Вот.
The next day, Anna found Will, a policeman who had been bribed by Mike, and asked him to check what kind of candy it was, based on the residual ingredients in the bag. At the same time, Tom also picked up Mike and started their schedule. Unexpectedly, Charlie called Mike on the way. It was obvious that David had given him the phone number. Charlie asked Mike how he was thinking about the cooperation matter, and that he had already sent the specific proposal via email. Naturally, Mike didn't agree immediately. After all, Charlie's eagerness seemed too suspicious, so he told Charlie it wasn't too late to reply. After he had read the email, after hanging up Charlie's call, Mike immediately called his professional lawyer, Bova. After the two met, Mike explained the ins and outs of the matter in a few words. To sum up, he was now planning to expand his business, and needed someone who could provide legal and financial advice, and most importantly, someone Mike could trust, and Bova was the right person for the job. She was proficient in corporate legal affairs, and cross-border capital flows, and had helped many entrepreneurs resolve crises in the past. Since Bova had received a lot of help from Mike before, she agreed without the slightest hesitation. After the two reached a cooperation agreement, Mike asked her to investigate Charlie's background. Mike wanted to find out why David and Charlie were so eager to get him on board, whether they were plotting to cheat him out of money, or if their business could really make money. The next day, Anna and Mike prepared to handle a business matter.
Так зачем вы меня позвали?
Ты идешь на повышение. Раньше обналом нашего агентства занимался я, теперь будешь ты.
First, the two went to a certain room in the building. Mike handed a USB drive to a man, who processed it and then returned the USB drive to him. But just at this point, a large number of special police officers arrived downstairs. Tom, who was keeping watch, quickly informed Mike, so Mike took Anna and quickly evacuated through the back door. Immediately after, the two split up and fled. Anna was picked up by Tom in the car, while Mike was caught red-handed by the police. It turned out that they had just been cashing out cryptocurrency, but Mike wasn't flustered at all. He called Bova to the police station. In the face of the police's questioning, Bova said that her client was collecting a debt, and then took out an IOU. The IOU had complete information, and the creditor-debt relationship was clear. The next second, the police received a call from their superior, and in this way, Mike was released on the spot. Later, Bova reminded Mike that today's incident was probably someone secretly causing trouble, and that they were probably targeting his way of cashing out cryptocurrency. But Mike told Bova to rest assured that he would keep an eye on his money. The next day, Anna reported to Mike that after thinking for a few days, she had decided to give the girl who had caused the trouble another chance.
Как только ты решаешь быть добренькой сутенершей, ты решаешь просрать свой бизнес.
Я не добренькая. Ей подсунули что-то типа наркотика согласия.
Just as neither of them could convince the other, Will arrived just in time. First, he told Mike that recently the Russian police had discovered an international drug trafficking group was using cryptocurrency to launder money. Since the police couldn't catch them for a long time, they shut down all money laundering companies in the city. Currently, only Mike's company was still operating, and this was probably why the police had targeted Mike. Later, Will mentioned the matter Anna had asked him to handle. After testing, it turned out that the candy was a new type of drug, which could enhance one's sexual desire in a short time, and cause addiction quickly, and when mixed with alcohol, it would be very dangerous, even potentially fatal. Mike's eyes turned cold suddenly, and he immediately gave an order, telling all the women to be alert to this drug, and to never let it enter his territory. Later, Mike invited David to the shooting range to shoot. David immediately asked Mike how he was. Thinking about their proposal, Mike didn't bother to say any more nonsense. He asked David, "What am I in your plan, a fool, an investor, or a tool to attract other fools by joining you?"
Он тебя за яйца держит. А 400 миллионов? Или чтобы их вытащить, нужно кого-то вместо себя поставить во щип.
After a moment of silence, David slowly said, "You're right to think that way. That guy tricked me into a trap. Only by finding a new sucker can I get my money back." David asked Mike to help him, and promised to give Mike half of the money once he got it back. Seeing that Mike didn't deny it immediately, David said he would set up a business bureau soon, and the three of them could have a good talk then. On the other side, Charlie took the initiative to come to the door, saying he was willing to make amends for his absurd behavior that night, and that he also wanted to place a new order. Seeing there was money to be made, Anna didn't dwell on the past anymore. Later, she called the women in for a lecture. Besides the rules she had always emphasized before, this time Anna also stressed, emphatically, that no stimulants of any kind could be used at parties. After the lecture, she specifically stopped the girl Karen, saying, "That was your first mistake before, but it will also be your last. If I catch you using drugs again, you'll pack your things and leave immediately." Karen agreed with a smile, and it was unclear whether she had really taken the warning to heart. At the same time, Bova told Mike the results of her investigation. Charlie's modus operandi was very formulaic and classic. It was the usual trick of a Ponzi scheme. After getting money from investors, he would first manipulate it, take a portion for himself, then find the next client, and use this new client's money to pay back the previous one, creating a chain that went on and on. The clients, eager to get their money back, kept recruiting more people to fill the gap. But as long as the chain kept running, those who joined earliest could indeed make a lot of money. Upon hearing this, Mike immediately asked Bova which bank Charlie used for his operations. To his surprise, it turned out to be the bank owned by John. In the evening, Mike brought Bova to the business meeting. At that time, John, David, and Charlie were all present. Bova started by telling a story, implicitly showing that she had seen through their Ponzi scheme. She proposed that everyone should allocate and share resources reasonably instead. But Charlie didn't give them a chance to continue discussing. He immediately announced the start of the main event. At Anna's snap of the fingers, the women walked into the hall one after another, but soon Mike noticed a waiter secretly taking photos of them. He told Tom to go and handle it quickly, so Tom took the waiter to the bathroom for questioning. The waiter quickly admitted that Charlie had told him to take the photos. Tom knocked him out and took his phone. At this point, Karen took the initiative to approach Charlie, saying she wanted one of the candies from last time. Charlie readily gave Karen one, but demanded that she take good care of John. After getting the candy, Karen turned and walked towards John, then took John and another woman to a private room. But the next second, Mike held up the waiter's phone, and asked Charlie to give him a reasonable explanation. Charlie wasn't flustered at all, and said it was just a little joke.
Заключать не будет.
Так мне не нужен Шмидт. Мне нужен мальчик. Я знаю, кто ты. Я знаю, что тебе принадлежат все шлюхи в этом городе.
It turned out that Charlie wanted to use Mike's intermediary services to launder money, but his attitude was very tough, giving Mike no room for negotiation at all. Mike stared at Charlie, his eyes as cold as ice, and in the end, he didn't nod to agree to the cooperation. When David found out the business deal had fallen through, he had no intention of staying any longer, and stood up to leave. But soon after, something happened to Karen. Mike and the others went over to check, and saw Karen collapsed in the corner of the private room. Obviously, she had taken illegal substances again. Luckily, she was still alive, but John was furious, believing that Anna had failed to do her job properly, almost getting him involved in a potential homicide. Just as John kept pestering them, Mike immediately knocked him out. Later, Mike told everyone not to make a fuss, and asked Anna to quietly take Karen to the hospital for treatment. The main cause of this incident was that Karen had drunk alcohol while taking the candy, which almost cost her her life. When John woke up, he was surprised to find himself tied to a sofa.
Сняли проститутку, накачали ее наркотой, а она чуть не умерла, представляете? А вы женатый человек.
While John was unconscious, Mike took several photos of John being intimate with the women, and used them to threaten John, demanding that he agree to do one thing for him later, otherwise, he would ruin John's reputation. But as soon as Mike dealt with John, a group of police officers rushed into the venue, obviously planning to seal the place off. What was even more surprising was that the police also took out a bag of drugs and pinned the charge of drug trafficking on the club. In such a serious situation now, even if Will stepped forward to intercede, it would be useless. Mike had to go see Police Chief Mary. It turned out that Charlie was still causing trouble. He reported that there were drugs in Mike's venue, while at the same time hiding real drugs there. In fact, the police weren't stupid. They knew someone was setting a trap to threaten Mike, and even knew that someone had approached Mike, wanting to launder money through the account of Mike's escort company.
То есть прикрытие контор по обналу – это ваша работа. А меня вы оставили в качестве наживки.
Он правда быстро соображает.
Mary's lackey admitted that because they had failed to find the mastermind behind the drug business, they had decided to crack down on money laundering channels instead. Mary's lackey told Mike to agree to Charlie's demands, and Mike's task was to control the flow of gambling funds. As long as he completed the task, the police would return all of Mike's venues to him. Although they wouldn't return the income lost due to the venue's closure, they could guarantee that the money would be included in the Federal Finance Bureau's budget. At this point, Mike had no choice but to agree. After leaving the investigation bureau, the two went to a bar to drown their sorrows with drinks. Tom asked Mike what they should do next, but Mike only said one word: when. On the other side, John found a contact he had in the government, wanting him to help find someone to teach Mike a lesson. John had been in the business world for many years, and had never suffered such a big loss. He really couldn't swallow this grievance. Unexpectedly, shortly after, a call was made to Mary. Mary wouldn't let John disrupt her plan, so she went to see John in person, and threatened him with evidence of his tax evasion, telling him not to trouble Mike anymore, otherwise, he would bear all the consequences himself. On the other side, Mike met with Charlie again. To Charlie's surprise, Mike softened his attitude and said frankly that Charlie shouldn't have had the police go after him earlier, which had escalated the conflict. If Charlie could give him a higher share of the profits, Mike was still very willing to cooperate with Charlie. Finally, after negotiations, Charlie agreed to give Mike a 10% share of the profits. The next day, Mike went to discuss with Bova. Over the past few days, Bova had been analyzing the fund flows in Charlie's bank accounts, and noticed something strange about the accounts he managed. For clients, Charlie would regularly split large sums of money and transfer them between more than a dozen companies, obviously transferring the money to someone who didn't want to show their face. To find out who exactly Charlie was remitting money to, Mike and Bova went to see John right away, demanding to know the information about the actual beneficiaries of these accounts. As soon as John said he was unwilling, Bova used the anti-money laundering law and anti-terrorism law to pressure him. To protect his own safety, John had to reluctantly hand over the list. After studying the information, Bova found that, although the money was transferred to several companies, the owners of these companies were all the same person, and that person was Mike's friend David. It turned out that David was the one at the top of the pyramid, and Charlie was just a pawn, helping David launder money. While still in shock, Mike quickly sent this information to Mary. Then Mike contacted Anna again, and asked her to go to the intermediary to pick up a sum of money. The next day, Anna picked up the money, according to the previous process, and handed it to Charlie. Charlie immediately gave the money to David, and David delivered it to the U.S. ambassador to Russia. Finally, the money was taken abroad by the ambassador on his private jet. It was clear that the final beneficiary wasn't in Russia. After confirming the result through his test, Mike immediately informed Mary, saying that this situation was beyond his ability to handle, and that it should be handed over to the Secret Service. But Mary's lackey said that Mike's task wasn't yet finished.
Чтобы вы теперь сломали эту схему, вы должны сорвать переправку наличности и оставить их без денег. Мы не можем взять посла за яйца, а вы можете.
Mary's lackey told Mike to set up a honey trap for the ambassador, adding that the ambassador loved Russian women the most. Helplessly, Mike had no choice but to agree. At the same time, Anna went to the hospital to visit Karen. The girl's condition was now very bad, with severe brain damage, and she would be disabled for the rest of her life. Anna felt deep sympathy for her, so she offered to cover the girl's rehabilitation expenses. But before Anna could even leave the hospital, she received a call from Mike. Mike said he was going to hold a large party, and needed many beautiful women, and that some of the women should be prepared to leave the circle. Although Anna was shocked, she still promised to make proper arrangements. On the night of the party, Anna led a group of beautiful women downstairs slowly, and gave an alluring performance for the arriving guests. Then the scene at the beginning of the story happened. The unlucky ambassador was taken into a police car by the police. which finally forced the US to select a new ambassador. This immediately cut off David's money laundering channel, but when Mike heard this news, he immediately had another idea. Now David couldn't transfer his money out, which meant he must have money on hand.
Хотите их украсть?
Ты знаешь, мне не очень нравится это слово, особенно когда его говорит юрист.
And Bova just happened to have a way to help Mike get the money smoothly. Later, the two went to see John again, hoping he would help intercept David's funds. Mike wrote down a very tempting number, saying that if John was willing to help, he would get that amount as payment. But John was worried that the owner of the money would trace it back to him. Mike told John that this client of his would soon be in trouble, that he would lose the client, but the money would stay. In the end, John's greed got the better of him. He gritted his teeth and agreed to Mike's deal. That night, Mike went to find Charlie again. At this time, Charlie was very anxious about the ambassador's matter. Mike quickly explained that he had nothing to do with the incident, saying that if anyone was to blame, it was the ambassador for trying to rape that girl, but no matter what, they had to find a way to solve the problem, otherwise, Charlie couldn't bear the responsibility either. When Mike saw the time was right, he took the initiative to suggest transferring that sum of money into his own account, saying that he would bear all the risks of exposure, and added that he had a perfect money laundering plan, one that wouldn't arouse any suspicion from the relevant authorities at all. This series of moves left Charlie confused and disoriented, and in the end, he agreed to Mike's proposal without fully understanding it. So the next day, Charlie came with cash for the transaction, but as soon as the clerk finished entering the information, the money was secretly transferred away by John. By the time Charlie realized he had been tricked, the money had already been transferred without a trace. But before Mike and Bova could celebrate, David's men came and arrested them both. Tom, who was keeping watch downstairs, saw this and quickly called someone, asking the person to track his location. Then Tom drove and followed closely behind. Soon, Mike and Bova were taken to an abandoned warehouse. Anna and Will were also arrested and brought there. It was clear that David was completely enraged. He asked Mike why he had done this.
Хочу работать с вами, без посредников.
Mike said to David, "You need to transfer funds, and I can help you do it perfectly, without going through Charlie anymore." Mike also promised that, as long as the two of them could reach an agreement, he would give the money back to David. After a moment of thought, David took out a gun, and told Mike to kill Charlie to prove his resolve. But when Mike actually pulled the trigger, he found there were no bullets in the gun. David smiled and said, "Do you still want to set rules for me?" After speaking, he shot Charlie, who had failed to do his job, on the spot.
Дурной, наглый и нерешительный.
Ты, в принципе, вообще не нужен.
But the next second, a large number of police officers arrived at the scene. In the end, David and his men were shot dead on the spot. Luckily, Mike sent Bova to the hospital in time, saving her life, and their relationship deepened further. Later, Mary's lackey took the initiative to approach Mike, wanting Mike to hand over David's money, but Mike refused to admit that he had taken the money at all. Mary's lackey suddenly started talking to Tom. It turned out that Tom was an undercover agent placed by Mary beside David, but no one expected Tom to choose to be loyal to Mike, and he also refused to reveal any clues about the money. So, Mary's lackey had to leave empty-handed. Although Mike still held a grudge about being tricked, he didn't pursue the matter further, considering that Tom had saved his life in the nick of time. Later, Mike arranged a chat with Anna, saying he wanted to set up a foundation to cover medical expenses for girls like Karen. Now that the foundation had funds, they needed someone to manage it, and Anna was the most suitable person for the job. This is where the story ends. This is a very obscure Russian movie, and it also seems to have a relatively low budget. The overall story content isn't very outstanding either, and the acting skills of some actors still need improvement. But Russian girls are really beautiful, so all the previous flaws can be tolerated. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.